This is David, welcome to another Btekt. This video is sponsored by Direct Mobiles. Check out the best mobile deals at directmobiles.co.uk. A few months after Sony revealed their new wave of flagship smartphones, namely the Xperia 10 Mark II, the Xperia 1 Mark II and the Xperia Pro, rumours have now surfaced recently about a new device thought to be called the Sony Xperia 5 Mark II. If this one keeps with Sony's usual schedule of releases, it should see the light of day in September at the IFA Consumer Electronics Show in Berlin. Of course, with all the chaos around the world at the moment, publicly attended launch events have kind of become a thing of the past. However, we do have to go back to normal at some point, and parts of the world are actually starting to already. Germany, where IFA is set to take place, has had a very effective strategy in dealing with it, and we would all hope that by September we should have a degree of normality back in most of our lives. Although the German government has put restrictions on all gatherings over 5,000 people, at least until October this year, which does rule out an event like IFA. But the organisers are planning to go ahead with the event, although as a new concept. Nobody is entirely sure what this means at this point, but it is still great that the event is still going ahead in some form. But of course, it's still unknown whether companies like Sony will still want to attend the event. Presumably they will, as they have missed out on a lot of exposure from earlier in this year with the cancellation of events like MWC. But either way, Sony are set to push ahead with the launch of their next flagship in September, the Sony Xperia 5 Mark II. This will be a reduced down version of their recently announced Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, which still isn't really available for anyone at the moment, although we are expecting it to hit the shelves in the next week or so. This time, we expect an even more compact version of the flagship than the Xperia 5 was to the Xperia 1. We should see between a 5.6 inch and a 5.8 inch display, still with that unique 21:9 screen aspect ratio. There really wasn't too much differences in reality between the Xperia 1 and the Xperia 5. They were both very high-powered, high-spec phones, but one of the major differences was the display. It still used the same Bravia technology that Sony borrowed from their TV line, but with a reduced resolution. We expect the same thing here, a very high-tech display, yet with a 1080p screen rather than a 4K panel. In fact, that was pretty much the only difference between the Xperia 1 and the Xperia 5. The only other one that I could think of was that the camera sensor was missing the extra DRAM that allows this camera to shoot at 960 frames per second frame rate, and obviously the size. We expect the same ethos to be followed here. If it is, then we would expect a Snapdragon 865 with the 5G modem, 6 to 8 gigs of RAM, and a quad 12 megapixel camera system with, for the first time on a Sony device, a time-of-flight sensor. Xperia flagship phones are great all-rounders usually. They always excel as media machines with fantastic screens and probably the most sorted sound that you'll find in any smartphone. Sony also produced some of the best camera sensors around, yet the performance of their own smartphone cameras have never really been considered their strongest area. I've always put it down to the camera software not being as advanced as other companies. I really don't think it's the hardware. I mean, they do make smartphone camera sensors for everybody. And they save a pretty good stock for themselves in the form of their Exmor RS sensor brand, which are CMOS sensors with tweaked architecture for increased low light sensitivity. But judging from the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, which does seem to have more of an influence this time around from Sony's Alpha division, who make their full-frame cameras, with better connectivity between the camera and the phone now, as well as the Photo Pro mode for full manual controls, which mimic the Alpha camera's interface. This time around, I expect the camera to perform much better than the Xperia 1 or the Xperia 5 did, especially with the new 3D eye time-of-flight sensor, which, along with the new Zeiss lenses, should give us stunning portrait shots. Expect most of the functionality from the Xperia 1 Mark II to be in the Xperia 5 Mark II. It's not really meant to be a cheaper option to the Xperia 1, just a smaller option, as the very tall display on the Xperia 1 can be very difficult to manage for some people. We have to go back to 2018 for the last time that Sony released a truly compact phone, which was the Xperia XZ2 Compact, a much smaller yet just as powerful version of the Xperia XZ2, and since then fans have been waiting for a follow-up device. They kind of half went there with the Xperia 5, but it does seem like this year they truly will deliver a compact phone. The Sony Xperia 1 Mark II is expected to be available in the next few days. Make sure you sub up to Btekt so you don't miss out on full reviews of this device, and stay tuned for more news on the Xperia 5 Mark II as well. And when you're ready to buy your new phone, make sure you check out the Direct Mobiles website. Compare all of the available deals with all of the different networks right there on the one website. Plus, they've got over 24 years of award-winning customer service, so you are in great hands. Check down in the description below for their link or search directmobiles.co.uk. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did and leave me a comment, leave me a like, and of course subscribe for more Btekt. Also, you can follow me on social media. I'm David, this is Btekt.